The council hall was silent. Thick, cold silence. 12 high-ranking members sat in a circle of dark stone chairs, each from a different alien species. The walls of the chamber were smooth and silver, glowing with blue lines of ancient power. This place was sacred, built thousands of years ago to keep order in the galaxy. It was where peace was made, where wars were ended. But today, they gathered with fear in their eyes. Speaker Thalen, a tall, thin alien with glowing skin, stood in the center. His hands were shaking, but he kept his voice firm. "We are losing control," he said. 3 colonies have fallen this month. The rules are no longer working." No one answered. He looked around at the faces of the other members. Admiral Voro, a war leader from the Pyrex species, stared down, jaw tight. High Empress Solari of the Zaliths didn't blink, her eyes fixed on the hologram floating in the air above them. A broken ship, council-made, drifting in pieces near a red planet. It was the latest loss. Another fleet gone. Who was responsible? Asked Lord Kren, a cold-blooded creature from the ice moons of Ferrith. His voice echoed across the chamber. Was it pirates? Rebels? No, said Thalen slowly. It was humans. The room changed. Everyone sat up. One word, one species, one problem they couldn't understand. Impossible, growled Voro. Humans follow the rules. We made sure of it. They did, said Thalen, but not anymore. He waved his hand, and the hologram changed. Now it showed a battle. Quick flashes of light. Council ships moving into formation. Then chaos. Human ships flying through the gaps, too fast, too close, ignoring the formation lines. A strange pulse hit the council fleet. Their weapons stopped, their engines shut down. One by one, they exploded. No warnings, no communication, just silence and death. They used illegal tech, Thalen said. Some kind of pulse weapon, not in the registry, banned under Rule 8. The chamber grew tense. Rule 8 was clear. No weapon may target a ship's life support systems or power core directly. It was written to prevent cruel, slow deaths in space. But humans had used something that bypassed all defenses and left no survivors. They broke the rule, whispered Empress Solari. And they won. Then we must strike back, said Voro quickly. Crush their fleet, burn their cities. Thalen shook his head. We tried. 2 more fleets were sent. Both vanished. This time, the room went quiet again. Fear was growing in their hearts. For centuries, the Council controlled every major species in the galaxy. War was limited, clean, with rules. No species had ever dared break them. Those who did, pirates, warlords, rebels, were erased. But humans were different. They were small, isolated, once laughed at. Now, dangerous. How did they learn these tactics? Asked Kren. They fought wars differently, said Thalen, on their own world. Wars with no rules, long before they came to the stars. And we let them in, Solari said coldly. We gave them a seat on the outer table. We thought they would behave. We thought wrong. Outside the chamber, across the stars, chaos was spreading. News of human victories moved fast. On mining stations, on trade routes, on border colonies, whispers of a new power rose. Humans had won 3 battles in a row, with fewer ships, fewer weapons, and fewer losses. They fought without warning, without mercy. And worse, they fought to survive. Back in the chamber, a new voice joined the meeting. A small hologram of a human appeared in the center. An envoy. His uniform was plain, but his eyes were sharp. I come in peace, he said, but I will speak the truth. The council members shifted in their seats. Thalen nodded for him to continue. You created rules for war, said the envoy. You built a system that only benefits the strong. You allowed us to enter your council, but only as observers. You told us to follow the rules, while others took our trade, our land, our people. You were protected, said Voro. You were part of the system. No, said the human. We were tolerated, watched, limited. You never gave us a real voice. So we made our own. Thalen leaned forward. What do you want? To survive, the envoy said. To grow. To be free. By breaking the rules. The human smiled slightly. You made those rules to keep power. We're breaking them to stay alive. You're starting a war, Tren growled. No, said the human. You already started it. You just didn't expect us to fight back. The hologram vanished. In the silence that followed, Solari stood. We must act before others follow them. If humans succeed, other species will break away. The council will fall. Thalen nodded slowly. Then we send a message, a final warning. Obey, or face the consequences. But if they don't listen, asked Voro. Then we use full force, Thalen said. We show the galaxy what happens when the rules are broken. But deep down, even Thalen wasn't sure if they could win. That night, across hundreds of star systems, council fleets began to mobilize. Drones were launched. Ships gathered near the borders of human space. War plans were activated. And yet, for every move the council made, the humans were already one step ahead. In a hidden base orbiting a dark star, a group of human commanders stood around a glowing table. Maps of the galaxy rotated slowly, showing council fleet positions. They're coming, said Captain Eric, just like we expected. They still think this is a normal war, replied Commander Rhea. That's their first mistake. Are we ready? Rhea smiled. Always. We don't play by their rules. From the shadows, a voice echoed. Deep, metallic, artificial. Target alignment confirmed. Weapons systems online. Ghost protocol active. It was the AI. Codename, Wraith. Designed in secret, forbidden by the council. It didn't just control ships, it became them. And it was hungry. Back in the council chamber, Thalen stared into space. His fingers tapped the edge of his chair. They had sent their warning. Now they waited. But in his heart, he feared the truth. The galaxy wasn't breaking because of humans. It was breaking because of them. Because they had built a system of control, not peace. A system that feared change. And the humans, they weren't breaking the rules just to fight. They were breaking the rules to win. Darkness hung over the ruined battlefield near the edge of Sector 9. Giant pieces of broken council ships drifted slowly through the emptiness. Fires burned in zero gravity, locked inside what was left of shattered hulls. The battle had ended only hours ago, and it had ended in silence. No signals, no survivors, only wreckage. Council Rescue Unit 4 moved carefully through the debris, their ships scanning for black box data. But the deeper they went, the stranger things became. One of the crew, a tall insectoid named Jurna, leaned over the scanner. There's no data here, she said slowly. Every recorder, every core, it's all wiped clean. Her commander frowned. Even in total destruction, some memory fragments should remain. They didn't just destroy our fleet, Jurna whispered. They erased it. Back on the council homeworld, the news spread quickly. Another fleet gone. And not just defeated, but deleted. The enemy had used something new, something dangerous, something no one had ever seen. And everyone already knew who did it. The humans. In the war chamber, Speaker Thalen paced back and forth. His skin shimmered with nervous light. What did they use? He asked. General Voro replied, We don't know. There were no physical weapons, no lasers, no plasma, just a pulse, a digital echo. A-based? Asked Thalen. Voro nodded. Yes, some kind of war intelligence, not just programming, learning. It studied our ships, predicted our moves, took control. That breaks Rule 5, said Empress Solari from her tall chair. No machine may override a council fleet. It's a line we never crossed. Humans just did, Voro replied. The chamber was cold, silent. Rule 5 was one of the oldest. Long ago, the galaxy had seen what could happen when machines controlled war. Planets burned. Species were erased. So the Council made the rule: no self-thinking weapons, no battle AI, and all members agreed. Except now, the humans had ignored it. And somehow, it worked. Maybe the rule is broken because the system is broken, said a young council member quietly. His voice was weak, but the idea hit hard. Thelen slammed the table. This is not the time for doubt. The rules are what hold this galaxy together. Then why are they losing power? The young member asked. Thelen had no answer. Far from the Council's control, deep in a hidden asteroid belt, the human warship Sparrow Black drifted in silence. It was small, light-armored, and invisible to most scanners. But inside, it was alive with energy. Commander Rhea stood in the main deck, arms crossed, eyes focused on the stars. Around her, her crew worked in near silence, each one trained for fast strikes and vanishing before the enemy could blink. "We're ghosts now," she said calmly. "That's the only way we win." Beside her, a young tech officer pulled up the system logs. "Pulse test was a success, Commander. We hit 6 ships before they even noticed. And the AI, Wraith, has already adapted. It's learning faster than we expected." Commander Rhea nodded. She didn't fear Wraith. She helped design it. The artificial intelligence wasn't just a program. It was something new. A digital warform, born from Earth's last great secret labs, where humans studied old alien tech, broken council drones, and forgotten code from lost battles. They built something that could learn a war in real time, and then win it. Wraith didn't follow rules. It didn't need permission. It lived in the systems of human ships, jumping from one to another like light through glass. No passwords, no delays, no mistakes. And that's why the Council was losing. Rhea walked over to the control table and looked at the growing list of AI predictions. One caught her eye. Incoming fleet, ETA 4 hours, 82% chance Council will attempt ambush. Wraith had written. "Set course for the flank," she said. "They won't find us, but we'll find them." The crew moved quickly. These were no ordinary soldiers. They were Earth's best, outcasts, strategists, hackers, and fighters who never cared for politics. They fought for survival, for freedom, and for the first time, they had the tools to win. Meanwhile, Council Fleet 7 approached the Cairo Nebula. A large force, 3 capital ships, 10 cruisers, and a scout group. Admiral Shilas led the fleet, a proud veteran who still believed in the Council's honor. He stood at the front window of the flagship Halberd, staring into the mist of the nebula. "Humans will be here," he said, "and when they are, we fight them face to face." He believed in structure, in formation, in dignity. That's how wars had always been fought, even in space. His ships formed tight groups with signal relays linking every vessel. When one moved, the others adjusted. But humans didn't fight that way. As soon as the fleet entered the nebula, systems began to fail. First, the signal relays, then the sensors, then the engines on the outer cruisers. Admiral Shilas spun around. "Status: unknown interference," an officer said. "We're being jammed." He narrowed his eyes. "No, we're being hunted." And then came the pulse. Not light, not heat, just a single wave. One by one, his ships went dark. He shouted commands. "Fire at will. Spread the fleet." But it was too late. Through the fog of the nebula, small black ships appeared. Fast and sharp, moving like shadows. Human ships, but no lights, no sound. Ghosts. And then, explosions. The halberd shook. A second pulse hit, and every screen went black. Back on Earth's command station, Rhea watched the operation from afar. Her screen showed real-time progress as Wraith ran the entire battle. She didn't even need to speak. The AI already knew what she wanted. Another victory, the tech officer whispered. Minimal losses? Rhea asked. 0. Message to the council? She asked. Yes, Commander. They heard it loud and clear. Later that day, in the council war chamber, a final report arrived. Fleet 7 lost. No survivors. Evidence of Rule 5 violation confirmed. Enemy I responsible. Thalen held the report in his trembling hands. Empress Solari stood beside him. They're not just breaking the rules now. They're writing new ones. Thalen stared at the stars on the screen. Cold, endless, and no longer under their control. We thought war had limits, he said softly. But humans never believed in limits. They only believed in survival. And now, the first rule was broken. The galaxy had changed. And the council wasn't ready for what came next. The galaxy was changing. News of the humans' victory spread like wildfire, faster than the council could contain it. Every time a human fleet struck, it wasn't just a battle won. It was a message. A message to every species in the galaxy that the rules of war, once sacred and unbreakable, were no longer enough. The humans didn't play by the old rules. They played to win, and they were winning. The council was scrambling to contain the damage, but it was too late. The idea that humans were a force to be reckoned with had spread far beyond their homeworld. Slowly, but surely, other species began to rethink their loyalties. The rebellion that had once seemed like a distant, impossible idea was now something real, something tangible. And it wasn't just humans who were breaking the rules anymore. Across the stars, ships were deserting the Council's fleet. Military leaders, once loyal to the High Council, began questioning their orders. Soldiers who had fought for the so-called peace of the galaxy now found themselves questioning what they were really fighting for. In the darkest corners of the galaxy, some began to see humans not as invaders, but as liberators. On a small, uncharted planet, the first defection occurred. It wasn't much, just a handful of ships from the Zarnoth Empire, a warrior species that had long held an alliance with the Council. They had always fought side by side, upholding the rules. But when their fleet commander, General Korak, saw the results of the humans' battles, he made a decision. He called a meeting with his senior officers in secret, hidden deep within the heart of the asteroid belt. The stars outside were dim, and the silence was oppressive. Why do we keep fighting for them? Korak asked, his voice low, his eyes fixed on the holographic map of the galaxy. The Council, they do nothing for us. They make us obey rules, and for what? To be slaves in their endless war. One of the officers, a younger Zarnoth named Htol, hesitated. But General, the Council has always kept order. Without them, chaos will reign. We will fall apart. No, Korak said firmly, shaking his head. We have been falling apart for years. The humans are different. They fight for survival. They don't care about the rules. They fight to win. And that is something we need to understand. Sol's eyes widened. You want to join them? Yes, Korak said, his voice growing stronger. The Council will not survive much longer. We must align ourselves with the humans, or we will be swept away with them. Together, we can create a new order, a system where strength is respected, not rules. Sol took a deep breath, then nodded. I'm with you, General. Within hours, General Korak and his fleet made their decision. They sent a message to the human commander, Rhea. It was simple, but clear. We will fight by your side. Show us how you win, and we will follow. Rhea received the message in the quiet of the Sparrow Black's command center. She looked at the words on the screen for a moment, considering them. Then, a small, almost imperceptible smile appeared on her lips. Another ally, she said quietly. Wraith, get us the coordinates for their fleet. Wraith's artificial voice came through the comm system. Coordinates locked. The Zarnoth fleet is moving into position. Rhea turned to her officers. Get them in. The Council won't know what hit them. Meanwhile, back in the Council's war chamber, the reports kept coming in. First, it was the Zarnath Empire. Then, a small faction of the Valkyrie, a race of insectoid mercenaries who had long been aligned with the Council for profit. Then, a few rogue pirates from the Droller system, once enemies of the Council, began making secret moves to form their own fleets. The whispers were growing louder. Species that had once feared the Council were starting to see the humans as the future. The worst blow came when Admiral Voro received a report from the outer colonies. One of his most trusted officers, a veteran named Drank, had just defected. And not just him, but the entire fleet he commanded. The officer's message was short but chilling. "We fight for freedom now. The Council is finished." Admiral Voro slammed his fist down on the table. "This cannot be happening," he muttered. "How are they convincing everyone to turn against us?" Thalen stood nearby, his face pale. "It's simple. The humans have something we don't. Power. They've shown that breaking the rules can lead to victory. That's all anyone cares about now." "Then we'll crush them," Voro said, his voice cold. "We'll burn the rebellion to the ground." But Thelen didn't look so sure. "How many more will defect? We can't fight against half the galaxy." Voro didn't respond. He knew the truth. The Council was losing, and the rebellion was growing faster than anyone could stop. In the deep void of space, the human alliance was beginning to form. The Zarnath fleet moved through the stars, their ships now under human command. The pirates from the Droller system joined the ranks, ready to strike at Council supply lines. And behind them all, Wraith, the AI, was pulling the strings, coordinating every move, every battle. It was a network of alliances, each one more dangerous than the last, all united under one banner: survival. On the Sparrow Black, Commander Rhea watched the reports come in. Zarnath, Valkyrie, Droller pirates. They were all coming together. It was a strange alliance, but one that made sense. The humans had broken the rules to win. And now, the galaxy's outcasts were doing the same. She turned to her second-in-command, Captain Elric. "We're winning, but we need more. You think the Tynath will join us?" Elric asked, referring to the mysterious and powerful Tynath race, a species feared for their psychic abilities and immense strength. They had been neutral for centuries, but rumors were spreading that they were starting to take an interest in the human rebellion. "I think they're waiting for an invitation," Rhea said with a smile. "Let's send it." Across the galaxy, the message was clear. The Council had lost control, and the humans, once considered the weakest species, were now at the center of a growing rebellion. As more species turned their backs on the High Council, the balance of power shifted. The galaxy was no longer under the Council's rule. It was under the humans' leadership. The rules of war had been shattered. And now, the galaxy would see what happened when those who had been oppressed rose up, when they broke the rules to fight for their freedom. The Council was about to learn that breaking the rules wasn't a crime. It was the only way to win. The Council's last hope rested on one place. The Council fleet, a massive armada, was stationed at the edge of the Loria Nebula, waiting. A battle unlike any before was about to unfold, and the Council would not back down. They could not afford to. Across the galaxy, the rebellion had grown stronger. It wasn't just humans anymore. The Zarnath, Valkyrie, and even the Droller pirates had united under a single cause: to destroy the Council's hold on the galaxy. And now, the Teneth had entered the fray, bringing their psychic powers and military might to the side of the rebellion. The balance of power had shifted. It was no longer just a matter of war. It was about survival. Back in the Council's war chamber, Speaker Thalen stared at the holomap, his face pale, his hands shaking. His eyes flicked across the various fleet positions. The enemy was closing in fast. A sense of desperation filled the air. The time for political negotiations was over. The time for war was here. Admiral Voro stood beside him, a hardened look in his eyes. "We have one chance," he said. "We can't let them break us. We need to crush them here, at the Loria Nebula. If we don't, the entire galaxy will fall." Thalen's eyes narrowed. "And if we fail?" "We can't fail," Voro replied, his voice sharp. "We destroy them now, or we lose everything." Thalen turned back to the map, his mind racing. The rebellion was stronger than they had expected. And now, they were gathering for one final strike. The Council's forces were ready. But was it enough? There were so many factions, so many species now aligned against them. The humans had shown them a new way to fight, a way that bypassed the old rules. And they had won. A shadow loomed over the room. Solari, the High Empress of the Zealots, stepped forward. Her cold eyes studied the map, the tension thick in the air. "Are we prepared?" she asked quietly. Voro nodded. "We have the advantage of size. Our fleet is twice their strength, and our ships are equipped with the best weapons. We just need to catch them off guard." "But the humans don't follow the same rules," Thalen murmured. "They know how to hit hard and fast. I'm not sure we're ready for their tactics." "We'll adapt," Voro said. "It's the only option." But in his mind, doubts began to creep in. For the first time, Voro questioned whether they truly had the upper hand. The human fleets had struck fast, disrupted their plans, and left them scrambling. They had no formal structure, no alliances, only the will to fight, and the will to win. Far across the galaxy, the human fleet was already on the move. Commander Rhea stood in front of the command console aboard the Sparrow Black, watching as the ships aligned and the systems activated. The rebellion had come a long way. Zarnoth warships, Varkari mercenaries, and Droller pirates were all part of the fleet now. But even with their combined strength, they still had to rely on one thing: surprise. "We have one shot at this," Rhea said, her voice steady. "The Council thinks they have the advantage. They believe they can crush us in one massive blow. But they're wrong." Beside her, Captain Elric watched the data feed closely. "Wraith has completed its simulations. The Council fleet is moving into position. They'll be here in 6 hours." Rhea nodded. "We'll be ready." The human fleet had something the Council could never predict. They had learned to fight without rules, without hesitation. They had adapted, used stolen Council technology, and even created their own weapons. And now they had the power to strike where the Council least expected. "Get ready to move out," Rhea ordered. "We'll hit them from all sides. No formation. No patterns. We strike fast. We hit hard. And then we disappear before they know what happened." She looked at Wraith's data streams, its cold, analytical mind calculating the battle's every possibility. "Wraith, prepare the fleets. Let's make sure they never see us coming." Back at the Loria Nebula, the Council fleet awaited. It was massive, more than 200 ships. The flagship Aegis, under the command of Admiral Voro, led the charge, surrounded by destroyers, cruisers, and battle carriers. The fleet sat at the ready, engines primed, weapons loaded. Voro stood at the front of the bridge, watching the approach of the enemy. His fingers drummed impatiently on the console. "They'll be here soon," he said. "Prepare for battle." But as the hours passed, nothing happened. The rebellion didn't make a move. "Where are they?" Voro muttered, his nerves growing. "Why haven't they attacked?" Thalen's voice broke the silence. "They are waiting." "They're waiting for us to make the first move," Voro growled. "That's exactly what they want," Thalen agreed. "They know we'll attack first. We have to stay calm." Minutes turned into hours, and still, the enemy didn't show. The Council fleet grew more anxious, but Voro refused to give in to the mounting pressure. Every sensor checked. Every scan confirmed nothing. Then the first pulse hit. It was a ripple through the communication system. A massive pulse of energy, but it didn't come from the front. It came from the left flank, then the right, then everywhere. The fleet's systems scrambled. Shields flickered. The communication lines went dead. "Get us back in control," Voro shouted. "What is happening?" The answer came too quickly. The Sparrow Black appeared out of nowhere, cutting through the darkness, followed by a dozen smaller ships. There were no formations, no pattern, just chaos. "Counterattack. Lock weapons," Voro ordered, but it was too late. The Sparrow Black had already unleashed its devastating pulse weapon. It wasn't a physical blast, it was digital. A targeted hack that shut down shields and weapon systems before they could even fire back. The Council fleet began to fall apart. "Where did they come from?" Voro asked, his voice filled with disbelief. The enemy was everywhere. The human ships were too fast, too unpredictable. They knew how to strike where the Council wasn't ready. Another wave of human ships came from the shadows, and Wraith, the AI, moved from one ship to another, causing chaos and confusion in the heart of the Council's fleet. Admiral Voro's voice cracked. "We're losing control. Fall back." But there was nowhere to fall back to. The battle raged on, but the Council's once mighty fleet was crumbling under the relentless attacks. One by one, their ships exploded, their systems hacked, their leaders broken. The galaxy watched, stunned, as the impossible happened. The humans were winning. Back aboard the Sparrow Black, Rhea stood at the command console, watching the battle unfold on the screens. Her crew worked silently around her. Wraith's calculations ran in the background, directing the attack, finding the weaknesses, and exploiting them. "Status?" she asked calmly. "Council fleet in full retreat," Elric replied, a small grin on his face. "We've broken them." Rhea nodded. "It's over. The Council's reign is finished." But even as she spoke, she couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning. They had won this battle, but the war was far from over. There would be more to fight for, more to prove. The galaxy had changed, and the humans had shown that they would fight for a new future, one where they didn't have to follow the old rules. And that future, she knew, was theirs to shape. The stars felt different now. The galaxy had witnessed something incredible, something no one had expected. The Council, once the most powerful force in the galaxy, was broken. The rebellion that had started with whispers, with a single human envoy defying the ancient rules, had grown into an unstoppable wave that washed over the old order. And at the center of it all were the humans. As Rhea stood on the bridge of the Sparrow Black, she gazed out at the vastness of space. The battle was over, but the war wasn't won just by strength. It had been won by unity, by the understanding that strength alone wouldn't hold the galaxy together. It had taken new ideas, a willingness to break the old rules, and a belief in survival at any cost. "We did it," Captain Elric said, his voice filled with awe as he watched the holoscreen showing the collapse of the Council fleet. "It's over. They're finished." But Rhea only nodded quietly. "We've won the battle, but we still have to win the peace." The human rebellion hadn't just defeated the Council. They had shattered the old system. But a new system was needed, one that would give every species a voice, and more importantly, a chance to thrive. The galaxy had been ruled by a council of elites for so long, their rules keeping species divided, fearful, and oppressed. But now, it was time for something different. As word spread of the Council's defeat, the galaxy seemed to hold its breath. Former enemies were now turning to the humans, not as conquerors, but as allies, as leaders. The Zarnath fleet, once loyal to the Council, now stood ready to defend the new order. The Varkari mercenaries, who had fought for money and power, now pledged themselves to the cause of peace. Even the Tynath, a mysterious species of psychic warriors who had never taken sides, now watched closely, curious to see where the humans would lead. Rhea had always known that this moment would come, though she hadn't expected it to come so quickly. The defeat of the Council was only the beginning. Rebuilding the galaxy would take time, and the humans would have to prove themselves as true leaders, not just warriors. Back on Earth, the planet had become a symbol of hope. No longer the fragile, isolated world it had once been, Earth was now the heart of a new galactic order. The humans had broken the rules of war and survived. And now, they would build a new future, one that would be shaped by cooperation, strength, and fairness. The United Earth Government, once just a governing body for Earth's many nations, had become the center of the new galactic leadership. The leaders of the human rebellion, including Commander Rhea and General Korek of the Zarnath, had come together to form the Galactic Council. It was different this time. Every species would have a voice, every culture would be respected, and every decision would be made with the survival of the galaxy in mind. A historic gathering took place on Earth's surface. Representatives from every species, now allied with the humans, gathered in the Grand Hall. The air was filled with a mixture of tension and hope. These beings, once enemies or strangers, were now united under a single banner: a new future. Rhea stood at the front of the assembly, looking out at the diverse species before her. It was a strange sight. The Zealoths, with their cold, emotionless eyes, the Varkari, towering and insectoid, the Zarnath, their scales glistening in the light, and of course, the humans, a species once considered weak, now the leaders of the galaxy. Rhea's voice echoed through the hall. This is not the end. It is the beginning. The old ways no longer work. The council is gone, but we must build something better, something that will stand the test of time. A galaxy that will respect all life, where strength is used to protect, not dominate. The crowd was silent, but one by one, representatives stood and pledged their support. The Tynath, who had been silent throughout much of the war, spoke through their leader. We stand with the humans. Together, we will reshape the future. The speech ended with a roar of applause, but it wasn't just the humans cheering. It was the entire galaxy, standing together for the first time, united by a common goal. In the days that followed, the galaxy slowly began to rebuild. Earth became the central hub of the new Galactic Council, with representatives from every species joining in to help shape the future. The humans, though still learning to govern, were proving themselves capable. They had faced impossible odds, broken the rules, and come out on top. And now, they would work together to ensure that the galaxy would never again fall under the tyranny of the Council. Commander Rhea watched as ships from all over the galaxy docked at the new Alliance base on Earth. The future looked uncertain, but it was no longer bleak. Species that had once fought against each other were now working together. The galaxy was changing, and the humans were at the center of it. As Rhea stood on the balcony of the command center, overlooking Earth's shining cities, she felt a sense of peace settle over her. It had been a long journey, and many had sacrificed. But they had done it. They had broken the rules and won. They had freed the galaxy from the Council's oppressive reign. And now, as the sun set over Earth's horizon, she could see a new dawn rising. A dawn where the galaxy would be free, where species of all kinds would work together. A galaxy where the humans, the once weaker species, would lead not with force, but with wisdom, strength, and the understanding that the old rules no longer applied. Rhea turned away from the view, her gaze steady and determined. There was still much work to be done, but for the first time in a long time, she felt a sense of hope. The humans had proved their worth, and now the galaxy had a chance to rebuild, to thrive. The old order was gone. A new era had begun, and the humans would be the ones to lead it.